Hi everyone, Diane here. Welcome to my studio. Hope everyone's fine. It's time to do some mark making, I think. And what I'm going to do today is use my Kuretake set of Art Nouveau paints to put some colours on a background and then to enhance that background in some way or other, yet to be determined. But I think you might find it slightly to moderately interesting. So we'll see how that goes, shall we? I've got a round nylon brush here. This is a drawwell brush actually, but it could be anything. It's a size 7 round. And I'm going to pick up some more. I've got a couple of big jars of water here, you know, those mason jars. And my paints are at the ready. The nice thing about this set is that all the colours in this selection go together. So you can't really go very far wrong. So what I do when I'm trying to do one of these kind of semi-abstract things is not to talk too much, but I might drop some water in, actually, which is a good idea. If you've got one of these little pipette thingies that we bought to give medicine to our lambs with, but I think you can buy them for art purposes as well. Most things seem to have been commandeered by artists in one form or another. I was watching a lady today from England, German woman who's in England now, using a paint scraper, the sort of thing you use to take paint off of doors and things, to do her mark making on her acrylic paintings, which was quite interesting to see. Now, somebody else that I watch has taken to using the expression to be, what is it she says? She says, I am, I can't remember the word now. Something to do with feeling that you have a compulsion to pick up a certain colour. Craving. I'm craving a colour, and that's an interesting word, isn't it? Aren't words important and interesting? I don't crave colours. I'm going to just go down or up the row here. I'm a bit more, how would you say, uninteresting. I don't consider myself to be particularly artistic or particularly creative. I probably would be better off painting doors or scraping paint off of doors than doing this kind of art. But nevertheless, this is what I'm doing and I enjoy it. So yeah, let's see what happens here. I'm just playing. I'm going up the row of paints here. You see how I'm going up the row of paints and letting the water do the work. Get to green now. That's interesting. And as soon as you start to bring green into the painting, you start to think of trees and the possibility of that being a sky and a landscape emerging, but you have to resist that and continue to add the colours, because if you don't resist it, you'll end up painting a picture. And, it's like, no, you are not a landscape. You are not a landscape. You are just colour. So we're really trying hard to make this painting understand that it doesn't have a life of its own. Well, it might do. I don't know. It could jump up and start screaming at me in a foreign language, but it's unlikely, I think. It doesn't have a life of its own. So having got to this point, I've used all those 6 colours here. I think 6 colours is more than enough. So what do I do now? I'm going to break away and there's only so many things that you can do with a painting, aren't there? There's only so many options. You can either paint something or you can not paint something. You can let it paint itself. You can, I don't know, but, you can either put paint down or you can not put paint down. Do you see what I mean? There's only so many things that you can... And there are so many people on the planet now, aren't there? This is starting to look too much like a tree for my liking. I can't help it. Could somebody stop me, please, from painting a tree? I'm trying not to be figurative in the sense of painting a figurative piece of art with a small a. Anyway, it's nice to paint with these colours, and I should stop fussing and stop, worrying. And maybe I'll even take the audio off of this and you can just listen to me saying nothing. No. Anyway, I'm going up top here now because I just simply can't resist the need to make this into a rectangle. It's going to have to happen. There we are. And I'm painting on a piece of Etcher, I think. Yes, Etcher watercolor paper. Now, maybe we will, I don't know, have no idea why, but I think I'm going to put a blob of dark blue in here. And having done that, you think to yourself, well, obviously we need some more of that, so we put it over here. Is it blue or is it green? I don't know. And then maybe something there. Now it really looks like a stormy sky. Doesn't it? That's got to come around the corner a little bit. I don't know. Let's add a little bit more to these pink areas and a little bit more to the orange areas. Strengthen them up a bit because they will dry a little bit lighter, won't they? It's interesting to see the colours relating to one another. A bit more blue up here. And they blend nicely, these Kuretake colours. They do blend quite nicely. Let's have a bit more pink down here. Two blues. A bit more pink in here, perhaps. I don't know, maybe that's too much pink. Maybe we'll put, shall we put some more of this blue in here? Okay. Well, I don't know. I think I'll just let that dry. Okay, so this is dry, and now what I'm going to do is I've got a piece of sponge here. This is just ordinary, I think it might have come from car washing sponge or something like that. It's got a reasonably decent texture to it, and I'm just going to pick up some paint. It's one of the benefits of these large pots of paint. You can just go in there and you can pick up paint, and then you can stamp, not stamp your foot, you can stamp texture onto your painting using the sponge. I remember I did a whole house, well, my living room, in the first house we ever bought, I sponge painted. Do you remember sponge painting in the 80s and 90s? Was it the 90s? I think it might have been the 90s. and yeah, in pink and blue. It's a bit like this, really. Yeah, so that's an interesting effect that you can achieve fairly simply. And you could also, I mean, I don't know, I'm sort of thinking maybe I should come in as well with a bit more of a slightly darker colour. Maybe this rust. I don't know how this is going to work. See what happens. It does make a lovely texture, all sorts of fingerprint type of things. You can go over where you've already been, and you have no idea where this is going to take you at all. At all, in the slightest. I am going to want to use my gold though, so I shall just get that out. I think I'll use the this one, the Made in Germany, Pearl Colours. I need to get that out in advance because it needs a bit of activation. We go to the lamb medicating syringe and let that sit for a bit and put that there for a minute. That's a Calero Pearl Colours, gold and silver, made in Germany. So yeah, I think this is going to need something fairly strenuous happening now. I'm going to take my brush pen, my Tombow, and what shall I do? Good question. We could do some lines. Having done that, you then think, probably wasn't a very good idea. What do I do now? Well, I'm trying to resist the temptation to be figurative. You see, this is where I'm at the moment. And if you don't draw leaves and you don't draw trees and you don't draw animals and plants, what do? The completely shapeless, formless things that just don't occur to you in your own mind. It's hard, this is a spiral. That's not figurative. But if you go from there to a leaf pattern, which is what I've been doing, it's not, no, you've got to resist that. Well, you have if you're trying to do what I'm trying to do, which is to do a non-figurative mark making only. I didn't realise how hard this was until just right now. I suppose circles are okay. I know, it's gone very quiet. Resisting the impulse to make something look like something. Think geometry. Okay, I have to think triangles perhaps. And semicircles. Interesting, very interesting sensation of not being allowed, because I've just told myself I'm not allowed. You see, this is wrong. I have to change this because this is no good, because this looks like berries, and that's the whole point, is that I shouldn't be doing that. I've told myself I'm not allowed to do that, so I have to change that. And I'm not sure if I'm going to manage it without turning it into just a nasty black blob. I think this might be where the gold is going to come in later, come into play there. Is it allowable, do you think? What shapes are there? It's so easy to go to a leaf shape. So easy. And I was complaining in the last video I did that I don't find it easy to use my imagination, and I think I'm finding this is possibly the way forward. To limit yourself and say, no, you will not draw a flower, you will not paint a leaf. It's not allowed. You've got to think of something else. You've got to allow something else to happen. And they can't all be spirals, the things that happen, but some of them can. Maybe we could do, I don't know. It's surprising how inhibited you find yourself when you leave your comfort zone. Do not turn into a leaf. Forbidden. You know, sometimes you look at abstract art, and I think we've all done it. You look at it and you think, oh, my 3-year-old could have done that. Well, I doubt it. Boff. Boff. It's very easy to do organic shapes. It's too easy. It's very hard not to. And oh my God. Okay, let's do a dotted line. And maybe we'll take that dotted line up all the way. Do not turn into a branch. cut on dotted line. Okay, I'm going to get some of this gold and cover up some of the things that I've done. So for example, this. Goodbye. Dots. That's better. Phew. And then I don't like this either. So I'm going to take my sponge and dip it in some of this gold coloured paint and see what happens. Perhaps nothing. Oh yes, look. I know, I can hear you all saying, what are you doing? This is just a mess. Could be, but you never know where it's going to lead to. You know, I might turn into the next Picasso once I've done this painting. You never know. A bit late in life to have that happen, but... Let's put some down here as well, shall we? Okay. I like this dark blue. But I don't know what to do with that. Maybe I'll tell you what, I'll do some circles. You can't argue with a circle. Let's put one here. Cover up some of those paltry lines. Let's put one here. Three is a good number. Five is good as well. So let's put one here. Starting to look like polos. The dark blue and the gold look good. Don't want that to look like exclamation marks. That's no good. Shall I join that up? Do not turn into a branch, but I think we can do without the dotted lines. Let's take a bit of silver, perhaps. What do you think? Silver? I'm not sure about silver. Don't know. It's pretty evident that that needs something in the centre. Let's try this. Gold pen. Just put some circles on there, some circular shapes. And I quite like that. We'll see what that looks like in a minute once I've covered the whole thing with them. Trying not to get it on my hands too much. It's a bit of a tricky problem. You lose control if you can't rest your wrist. Now the spirals can come back, can't they? Look. Now they look as if they might belong. It's still a bit damp there, but that's quite nice because it gives a sort of sketchy sort of effect. Up here, perhaps. No one can say this isn't abstract, and unfortunately it did come out of my head. This was entirely self-generated for what it's worth, and I am trying really hard not to do a leaf. Leaves are not allowed. The nearest we can get to a leaf is a spiral. Something keeps biting my ankle. I have to think what that is. Okay, I'm going to stop and have a look at that in a minute. Okay, so I feel it's a little bit unbalanced, and I don't know quite what to do about that. So I'm going to try to put some more midtones in. I don't know whether I'll feel happier about it once I've done that or not. But I'm going to try not to cover up the lighter. I don't know what I'm trying to do, but you know, what else can you do on a Sunday afternoon? Maybe we'll put some more of this blue down here, maybe. Could lift probably. If I did that, I might be able to lift some of that if that's too dark. I don't know, maybe. Oh yes. And that's quite interesting because that gives a sort of broken pattern, which is less straining for the eye. So maybe I should do that here as well, perhaps. Deconstruct things. So you make them and then you unmake them, because they're not permanent. Nothing's permanent. Nothing's permanent. Yes, that's right. So this is like unprinting, lifting, making it wet, putting it on, making it wet and lifting it off. So it's the reverse of printing, isn't it? Where you make it wet, put it on. Unprinting. These need to be unprinted as well. It gives a much more interesting effect. Messy. Don't want too many areas of interest, that's the thing. And I think we've reached the limit, definitely, of areas of interest. And I think it's possible that there are too many. Where's my gold pen gone? This is perhaps too black. Maybe. Okay, well, anyway, there we are. That's an experiment. That's interesting. Trying to create a page of colour and shapes, not using anything organic. And that is to say, nothing that looks like a leaf, nothing that looks like a flower, a little bit dodgy there because that's like petals a little bit, and nothing that looks like, and this could be construed as a leaf, but it's abstracted. In other words, it's not, doesn't really look like a leaf. So no leaves, no flowers, no shapes that remind me of rainbows or trees or animals or birds, nothing like that, just literally geometric shapes or non-shapes, lines, dots, things like that. Surprisingly difficult, surprisingly hard to do, and surprisingly not sure if it's successful. But it was an interesting experiment. Why don't you give it a try and see what happens? You might be surprised. We do believe in the art of random somewhat. So here's an addendum. This is Mod Podge, which is glue basically. I'm sure it's got, what do they call it? I don't know. Anyway, what I'm going to do is I'm going to Mod Podge onto here. So this is a bit like doing, decoupage. And just wet that with a bit of water to make that lie down. I have absolutely no idea what I'm doing. I just felt like I wanted to do it. I don't know, perhaps I think I ought to use up some of my Mod Podge before it goes home. Oops. Maybe I've been watching too many abstract deconstructionist painters, and I've been influenced by their desire to destroy everything they just did. This is rice paper, by the way, just in case you needed to know, wanted to know. Rice paper, sort of Japanese stuff. And let's put this in the middle here. And see what happens when that dries. Maybe I need a piece down here as well. What do you think? Small piece? Perhaps? And maybe it has to have rough edges. It can't be straight edged, can it? I'm thinking something right the way across the middle there, perhaps. I think I'm going to go away and have a cup of tea and come back later and see what's happened here. You never know. I think I'm going to put it there. Right. We'll let that dry. We'll see what happens. Probably not much. Yes, interesting. So there's the final painting, which has been sitting waiting for its moment of fame for a few months now, and I think it's finally matured enough to see the light of day. The challenge of not using any nature-inspired motifs was quite something for me, and I was definitely taken to my limits of imagination with this painting. Let me know what you think in the comments, and don't forget, all the materials I used are listed in the description below, and if you use one of our links, it helps to support our channel. So I hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll say bye for now and see you again soon. Bye bye everyone. Bye bye.